New videos every day.
The lymphatic system is somewhat of a complicated system, and there's a lot that goes on. I'm going to be very brief and descriptive about how this works, because I don't need to go into a lot of explanation that gets down into the cellular level. Primarily, it's about moving the toxins out of the body. Sometimes it carries proteins, because the proteins are bigger molecules than the size of the capillaries. Once the lymph fluid gets to the liver, it does its filtering and it sorts it out. The liver will sort out what it needs and what it doesn't need. And there's a particular direction that has to be moved for this. You have to follow the lymphatic system. It does not have a pump, so it's important to move it in the direction of the draining area. You work all the time in lymph. You work proximally to distally. You want to start in where you're going to be flowing into and open everything up on the way down the leg or down the arm or outside to the outside edges of the system, so that way you can have a clear way to move the water. The water has somewhere to go. If you start distally and start to push, it's not going to work, because the direction has to come in proximally to be able to be drained. So the body is divided into quadrants. There's a left and right quadrant and an upper and lower quadrant. And so the body will drain. This quadrant drains into the axillary. This quadrant will drain into the axillary. This quadrant will drain into the inguinal, and this quadrant will drain into this inguinal. They tie together through a deeper structure that's deeper into the abdominal cavity, coming in to the center vessel, where there's a place here called the cisterna chyli that catches a lot of the lymph as it's traveling its way back up to the main nodes up here underneath the clavicle, which are going to take that back into the circulatory system, straight back to the liver via the blood, and then it's going to be moving itself through into the other organs to be able to expel the toxin through the kidneys and bladder, and sometimes through other methods, but usually it's through the bladder. When you're working lymphatic work, there's a way to map it, what's called mapping, and it's where you place your hand very lightly and you feel the water. The water is only right underneath the skin, so we're dealing with the skin. Right underneath that is the water area, the area where the lymph vessels are. So you want to feel only that deep, and you can actually feel when your hands are trained. You can feel the direction, if it's got flow towards the nodes where it's supposed to go, or if it's stagnant, or if it's flowing very slowly. And here we have a pretty good amount of current behind it on the abdomen. It's a little bit more congested coming up into the liver area. This is pretty good, and these areas are all fairly open, but it does have some work to do. You can check the arms, you can check legs, and after you get good at mapping, the hands can find it rather quickly, so you're able to move through the body and find any congested areas. If there's no congested areas, then we can work pretty freely, just opening everything up. There's various techniques to use to get fluids to move in the right direction. Coming up to the nodes right underneath the clavicle, we begin the little skin stretching technique, which is no deeper than into the structures of the water, right underneath the skin. And here the nodes go around the neck. There's a neck chain of nodes. They go around the neck, and then we're going to drain up the neck chain and back down, and then up the back side of the neck chain, and then pushing it back in. You open up the arms so that you can get to the axillary area, which is underneath. It's like the armpit. We call it the armpit. If there's a sheet that you have that's long enough, sometimes that works. Otherwise, just apply a couple of Kleenexes into that area, because sometimes it's kind of sweaty and you're going to be working other parts of the body, you don't want your hands to get moist if possible. And you just get your hands underneath there into that area where there's a number of nodes, and you do an upward and kind of inward stretching. And what I'm finding here is I'm finding that on the right side there's more congestion. I find that that's oftentimes the case, and I am assuming that's because this is the side where the liver is draining, and the liver takes a lot of load. So I am guessing that it's, since I feel it so much, that it's probably because the liver is working very hard to keep our system detoxified. Unfortunately, we are assaulted every day with a lot of toxins in the body. This is a little more working into the lung, but I am going to skin stretch this up through to get it up moving, since there was a bit of congestion in the axillary. Okay, then coming down to the arm, you want to take the arm upward and place it over the top here. And can't really see too well, but we're doing skin stretching on the upper inner part of the arm. And then flushing it back through. This is called a rinse when you take it back up and through. Okay. And draining the arm inward. This is all done in different steps to open and then push into the space, open, push into the space, and then rinse. And then going down the arm, hand, there's a lot of more intricate work that can be done with lymphatics. I'm just going to show you the basic overall work to get the system moving, but there is ways of draining the joints. And when I work with frozen shoulders or problems in the joint, the first thing that I do is drain the joints, because oftentimes there's a lot of lymph fluid that's coagulated a little bit around the joint. The fluid will get somewhat gelatinous-like if it's not able to move well. And when you start to get that, that's when you'll get the edema or the pitted edema, which is a little more dangerous because the water is not moving at all. Pitted edema is when you can push your thumb into the area and you lift it out and there's still a thumb impression in the spot. My experiences with that is sometimes it looks like it's still quite pitted when we're done with the work, but what people notice is that their shoes will go on their feet and fit, and they actually even be loose, even though the foot or the ankle still looks swollen. So there's a lot of water that can collect. The body has a lot of fluid in it. And then, of course, mapping to make sure that the work is going well and that there's a good current underneath. And there is. And you come to the other arm and do the same thing here. And down this arm, hoping that you can see it okay. We're doing the same thing on this arm as the other one. I have had people tell me that they've had lymphatic work that starts down at the feet and squeezes really hard and pushes everything upward. I have no idea what that's really about, but it isn't lymphatic work the way that I understand lymphatic work and the way a lot of other people work lymphatic work. The structures of the lymphatic system are quite delicate, and a lot of pressure pushing does not seem like that would get the work done. Apparently this work is so painful that the people that did have that experience were quite afraid of lymphatic work because it was not a pleasant experience. So I again encourage people to learn a little bit about what they're getting into if they don't have reliable information. Okay, then you map again and feel the flow is all quite good. The lymphatic system for the most part will turn pretty quickly. I've worked people post-op. That helps the healing, helps get rid of the anesthesia and different things like that that the body goes through. Now here where we're going to go up to the upper part of the thorax or the abdomen, working to the lower part of the thorax and the upper part of the abdomen. And then pressing it up through these nodes which are alongside the rib cage. This I'm accessing the deeper structures to get that moving into that cisterna chyli. Here's where you want to move the stomach back and forth. You want to see it kind of moving watery. That's a sign that there's not a lot of congestion, that it's moving pretty well. The organs are floating nicely in there. You can hear things sloshing. And this is just a little like floating on the cloud type of movement where you're just rocking it. Moving things deep in that abdominal cavity, around those organs of the digestive system. And then you go back up and drain some more up the upper left quadrant, the lower quadrant, the upper quadrant, the lower quadrant, and then up through the cisterna chyli. Lymphatic work, in my opinion, is one of the most important modalities if we're moving into a healing space with ourselves, because we do need to detoxify, and we can go through a lot of diets to detoxify, or drinks or juices or injections or whatever. It's my opinion that we should let the body do it more naturally and just help the systems along. It's easier on us, for one thing. And that would be my preference. These are larger nodes down in the abdomen, the deeper structures. Okay. And then at the end, you map again. You find out where that flow is going and making sure that it's going in the right direction. And you want to have it go with a fair amount of current, like a river current behind it. And it's quite obvious once the hands know what to feel. That's probably half the work of learning this modality, is getting it in the hands. And she's still a little bit less more congested on this side where the liver is. So I'm going to drain the liver. And this is by just cuddling into the liver and cradling it with your hands, and then giving it different rotative kind of movements. You can feel the fluid quite well. And then sometimes it just takes a little bit of like going back over a space. And it's flowing much stronger now, so that's all that it needed was just a little help around the liver. And this is going well. Okay. Should I do the legs too?
If you go ahead and do a little exit, and if you want to give your website, and then we'll probably do a different shot for that.
Okay. Okay, so she's flowing well in the upper part of her body, and then the lower quadrant up in the abdomen is all flowing well. So this is Athena Jezik. My website is acranio.com. I'm located in Austin, Texas. If you have any questions, you can email me or call. Okay, and there's a little demonstration on the lymphatic drainage and a little explanation on the importance of it.